It is 22 minutes after 11 p.m. Central African time. Listen, we are going to be navigating the realities of the fear of failure. Whether you're in business, education, or the creative industry, this conversation is for everyone who's trying to thrive in high pressure, uncertain world and economies. Okay, if you're thinking to yourself, listen, I am living in President so-and-so's economy and I'm not too sure how I'm going to survive. I don't know if I'll retain my job in the next coming cycle. I don't know if I'm worthy of this job to begin with. Then Julliane Haas, who is a therapist, joins us in studio and she's going to help us navigate the terrain. Julliane, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to African Diaries.
It's a huge pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Let's start off with these stats. Now, there are stats that show up to 80% of African workers in some sectors report work-related anxiety, right?
Yeah.
From your experience, why is the fear of failure so common in workspaces?
So there's a few reasons. I think generally you have just bread and butter issues. Like generally a lot of workplaces are not secure. And also with the changes in generally the industry, much more jobs being replaced by, and that has been by machines for a very long time. It's not just AI. And the changes, we've seen a lot of retrenchments, and that makes people just materially speaking unsure about the future of their job. But what we also see is a change in a lot of the types of work. And if you look at the factors, because I was always curious, we see so much anxiety even as therapists, and I was always curious, what are the factors that make a workplace more prone to anxiety? And what I've noticed is that firstly, a lot of us work far removed from the end result. Versus often in the past, your job was directly linked to what you were producing or whom you were helping. And my mom even asked me once, like, who of your friends actually does something that is not just on the laptop? Do you see what you're working towards? And we often don't. So being removed from the end result, then the constant feedback, constant evaluation, KPIs, reviews that are linked to someone else's opinion, not always objective criteria. And also you are the value add to your job. So you always need to demonstrate every day that you're good enough, you're adding enough value, because you're not producing a certain amount of loaves of bread. You somehow need to demonstrate that what you're doing is adding value. And then last but not least, what we also see in the working environment is just highly competitive. And all of these factors, you don't actually know at the end of the day, have you done a good job or not? So it leaves a lot of room to be anxious, to be worried if you are good enough.
You know, Julliane, for the life of me, I was just listening to you and I'm like, these are realities, KPIs, opinions, not directly related to the outcome. So I broadcast every day. But who's listening? Whose life has changed? You know, is a question, and that's so interesting. I want to talk about how fear manifests. I think a lot of people don't know that they're suffering from anxiety. They just believe that they have certain belief systems or opinions or views on work, but they don't realize that this is actually the manifestation of fear or anxiety. Let's talk about the presentation. How does it express itself in certain people?
Yeah, so the reason they don't realize they have it is because they always think it's true. I might get caught tomorrow and everything will go wrong. So a lot of people wouldn't call it anxiety because they think, oh, this is the reality. I'm just not good enough and I've been hiding it very well until today. That's why it's hard to pinpoint it. When we speak about fear and anxiety, it's very important to differentiate. And I like to differentiate fear, anxiety, and simply being nervous. Fear is... it's actually not really an emotion. It's also more a motivational force that we have as people. When we have fear, we're faced with a direct risk or threat and we get into action mode, flight or fight. Our body produces that fear because something is attacking us. Versus anxiety is somehow a feeling and emotion inside you, but it's not really linked to anything that might have happened. A lot of people wake up anxious. A lot of people are anxious and then they start thinking what possibly was the reason. So it's more a state of being and feeling that doesn't always need a causal factor. And I say anxiety is like, those things that get attached to your clothes. Like it's anxiety is there, and it will find something to attach to it. And it will tell you I'm anxious because of that. So that's a problem. It can find any reason, but you just feeling this inside. So it's different from fear. Fear is linked to a direct risk, to a direct threat. And anxiety is that feeling. Versus nervousness is actually a very, very helpful response. You are nervous, your body is pulling together the adrenaline, you're hyper focused, you prepare very well. It feels very similar to anxiety. What I always say, you notice it when you achieved something. When you were nervous, you get that, it's finally done. When you're anxious, even though you were successful, you think, oh, but what if I fail tomorrow?
And then fear, because you said that fear is this force that pushes you to be better. How does that present itself toward the end of the activity?
Oh, well, fear is a fight, flight, freeze response. So then it really depends if your mechanism was helpful in that specific situation. But nowadays, it's also, we had this idea that when there's a direct threat, we get into fight, flight, or freeze. But nowadays, people respond like that to even an email from their boss. So it has become a little bit hard to use the right fear responses in the modern economy.
So goodness.
But usually it really depends if you choose the right of the three mechanisms in whichever moment.
So you can choose between the three, because there's this theory that I freeze. And that's just Shayla's response all the time. It doesn't matter what the context is, whether it's an email, whether it's somebody who's trying to take my belongings, whether I feel like I'm in danger, I just freeze. Is that the way the brain functions, or can we choose how to respond?
I think it depends how much time you have, but the fear response is through the limbic brain, like it goes more automatic. So you have a default often. And also a lot of people who've been in very risky, traumatic, threatening situations, they come out always surprised that they say, oh, I didn't realize I was going to fight the situation, or I didn't realize I was going to freeze. That's why it's also very important that when you speak to your children, for example, or other people, you don't tell them, always fight, or always do this, because no one knows how you will respond in the situation. But if you have more time, you can activate your conscious processing and then say, okay, freeze doesn't really help me in this situation. Let me choose another of the pathways. Often that works by first calming yourself down again, because also fear, anxiety, or feeling nervous are all physical responses of your body. So as long as you breathe shallow, your body is telling you we are still anxious, we are still scared. So you can do whatever you want to do. You will still be anxious, you will still be scared, because your body is sending that signal to your brain. So anytime you want to take your anxiety on, you need to start lowering your breath, breathe deeply, make sure you breathe into your belly, because breathing into your chest is a sign to the body that we are stressed. We're producing hormones, we're producing adrenaline, we have a fast heart rate, and then we will be hyper tense. So start with the breathing, and from there you can calm down the rest of your body. Because it's interesting that anxiety can sometimes even just be triggered by a higher body temperature. And you will think, I'm anxious now, and you will find a reason, even though it started as a physical reaction.
The voice of Julliane Haas, who joins us in studio, therapist and relationship counselor. If you've got questions for the conversation at hand, the fear of failure and anxiety in the workplace, find us on +27 6340 69126. Julliane, I want to talk about extended expressions of anxiety and fear of failure. Right? Sometimes procrastination is a problem. Or sometimes you overexert yourself, right? So you were saying that one might think to themselves, they got the task done, but they're still thinking to themselves, I could have done this better. What if tomorrow I get caught out? Are they extended expressions such as procrastination? Do we link it directly to the fear of failure, where somebody just decides, you know what, I'm actually going to quit? This particular thing, I'm letting go. Or I'm constantly working on it every single hour of my life. If I'm breathing, I'm working on this thing. Is that a real thing as well?
Yeah, those are symptoms. And then they would make it worse. Because procrastination is also often you pushing out the fear that you might fail. Because if I don't try it today, I cannot fail today. versus hyper preparation or this excessive preparation nearly for meetings is also more a coping mechanism, but it's all still driven by anxiety and fear. And what you want to do is to actually see if you can listen to other motivations or feelings inside you, so that whatever you do at work is not a direct result of your fear or your anxiety.
Sure. Julliane, I want to talk about, and I suppose that the reason I want to bring this up is because I do think to an extent that every one of us is going through that. Job insecurity is a real thing. We started with that conversation making just mention of the context of work in this day and age. However, we're not necessarily addressing entrepreneurs, because I think they too undergo this experience, right? They too are thinking, well, I make money today, tomorrow. Perhaps let's give light to their context.
For them, it's highly insecure. And also, they always have to rely on themselves. So they don't have that review or feedback from someone else, but always directly from the customer. So it's it's a very challenging and testing environment. And also what you often have as an entrepreneur is that you also often feel alone. Like a lot of people in the workplace, they think, oh, it's just me who's struggling. Everyone else seems to be doing all right. And that isolation can also spike your anxiety, because you don't know also that this is a natural response to a challenging environment. You think always, maybe I'm doing something wrong.
What is the one biggest misconception about these feelings?
That confidence will fix it.
Oh, Julliane. Oh, Julliane, here we go again. Explain for 10 marks.
So we think if I'm anxious and I have self-doubt, the antidote is confidence, because then I think I can do everything and everything will be great. But both is self-centered. And what research shows is that the best way to overcome anxiety is to not just look inwards and focus on yourself. So I always say, first things first, try to focus on the work again. How many people go into a meeting to actually learn something about work, and how many people go into a meeting to prove themselves? And what happens is, if you go into the meeting and you tell yourself 50 times, I'm amazing, I can do this, I have all the confidence in the work, one weird look that a coworker gives you and you back to square one. So confidence is super unsustainable because you're even more vulnerable now to people's reaction towards you. So you need to actually say, how can I focus on the work again? Second step, focus on the people around you. Anxiety gets worse when you think, I'm the only one who's not managing in this room. And also, a lot of people miss the moment where others need them at work as well, because they only look towards the ones who think perform better, want to prove themselves to them, and everyone is just trying to prove themselves up the hierarchy. No one looks down and says, who actually needs my guidance? Who actually needs my compliments? Who actually needs my encouragement today? And even a lot of leaders or entrepreneurs, they feel incredibly lonely and could do with a little bit of encouragement. But we always think all of the others are confident and successful, and I'm this anxious spiral of self-doubt. So they need to affirm me. I'm not even in a position to affirm anyone else. So focus on work again, focus on the other people, and focus on what you can contribute as good as you can. Don't think of what is expected and what you should be doing. Really think, with what I have today, what can I contribute? And there you focus on your growth. What can I do a little bit better today? Focus on work, focus on the people around you, focus on your growth, not on proving yourself.
Julliane Haas joining us in studio. Listen, every time Julliane is in the building, it's a jump. Okay, we're talking the fear of failure. We're talking workplace anxiety. You're more than welcome to send through your questions. Perhaps you have some. Find us on WhatsApp +27 6340 69126. We kick-started off there towards the final words there by Julliane Haas with respect to solutions, how to solve for X in this particular environment, in this particular atmosphere. We're going to continue with the solution building on the other side of this.